Jimmy Steele here on Rad Radio, doing a little Zoom fest with our friend Myles Kennedy, who's the man whose voice precedes him. They call him. That's right. From Alter Bridge to Slash, and of course back in the Mayfield 4 days, and of course his highly praised solo efforts, which we're here to talk about today. The Ides of March came out earlier this year. How you been, man? Since the world woke back up after COVID.
I'm excited. The world's waking back up. I'm ready to go. Put me in, coach. Let's do this.
Exactly, to say the least. I was reading some stuff about the writing of the Ides of March and stuff, and a lot of it came about before and during the pandemic, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it was. I was on the road with Alter Bridge. We were in the middle of an album cycle, and we thought we were going to Asia and Australia. And then the manager's like, "No, you're not. The world's shutting down." So I thought, well, about a week into it, I was bored. I was like, I'm going to write a record. So that's where the Ides of March came from. It was basically just, in my studio, trying not to go crazy.
Interesting. So really, you were about to go on tour, not even really thinking too much about an album at that point.
Right. I knew I had a record to make. I knew I was supposed to go in the studio in August of last year. In fact, strangely enough, had just had a discussion with that very manager and said, "Hey, man, I don't know, given our tour schedule, how I'm going to find the time to write this record." And it was almost as if the universe heard that and said, "Well, I'll tell you what, work out something. You're going to have plenty of time to make a record."
So that's what caused the
my fault. It's all my fault, everybody.
Very cool. So you go and you record this album. Now, from what I've heard of it, I've listened to it. I enjoy all your stuff from, all your different platforms, but I get a little rock, a little blues, maybe even a little soul and country in it. What was the thought process? I mean, you had a lot of time to think. So what was the thought process of going into this?
Yeah. The fun thing about making the solo records is it's kind of like, look, I play with these other awesome artists. But with that, when you're writing with them, there's a level of compromise. That's what makes it a band. And when you're doing a solo record, you're kind of left to your own devices. So you get to incorporate a lot of the things you normally wouldn't have the opportunity to do, or the things that are kind of more part of your musical DNA. So I do love, like, I learned to sing by listening to Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. That was kind of the genesis of it for me, along with, the rock guys like Robert Plant and all of that. But a lot of what you hear on these solo records is kind of a manifestation of who who the other guy that I am, and as an artist. So it's really fun. I love getting to make these records, and I'm really grateful to having a fan base that allows me to do it. That like they're so cool because they're like, well, you know what, this is Miles's thing, and we're going to support it, and I really appreciate that. It allows me to make music I love.
You definitely are one of, we've been doing this for a long time at the Rat here, 25 years and whatnot. And you are definitely one of the artists and singers that people definitely gravitate towards. And I think it's because besides your massive talent and your great voice and songwriting ability, I think you come across pretty genuine. So I think that works both ways. You come across as approachable and genuine. I think people are given a little bit leeway into seeing you do some other stuff, maybe.
Well, I fooled y'all.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. That's really kind. Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny because people who will work with the bands I'm a part of, like whether it's some sort of promotional thing or something, they always comment. They always say the same thing. They're like, "Man, your fan base is just beyond cool. They're just so they're so in it and they're so devoted." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. We're very cognizant of that, and for whatever reason, through the years, they continue to be there and support. Whether it's Mark's got. By the way, Mark's got a solo record coming out. It's awesome. Or in my record, and everybody's just really it's really supportive. So we're lucky.
So on a couple of the songs, you play some interesting instruments. I know on one of the tunes you play the steel guitar, put through some processing. You want to talk a little bit about that, because I think people are going to really love it when they hear it if they haven't heard it already, especially live.
Yeah. So I love the steel guitar. I love the resonator steel guitar. First of all, it looks cool. I remember as a kid, you remember I think it was the Brothers in Arms. It was I
was just about to say that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I love Mark Knopfler, And when I saw that album cover, I thought, man, that's a cool guitar. What is that? So
Is that real?
yeah, exactly. Is that real? And then I discovered this guy named Chris Whitley in the '90s, who I just loved and listened to a lot of his music. So I thought, well, what if you took elements of that, but kind of rocked it out? And what if I added a pickup, plugged it into an amplifier, added a little bit of gain, and that's kind of the sound of the first single off this record, called In Stride, that's what I did. Is I took this very as far as Americana goes, as far as American music goes, that instrument's been a very huge part of it, of the evolution. And I thought, well, what if you kind of rocked it out? And that's what you get.
It sounds phenomenal. It sounds phenomenal. Now, will you be bringing that on tour to do that live?
As a matter of fact, I will. Yeah.
Now, getting back on the road, this is in 2018 or 2019. What are some differences I believe the tour starts on the 7th, or you've been out there already?
No, it starts officially on the 7th. I did 2 shows earlier this year in the summer, and that was fun, just acoustic shows, just to kind of dust off, brush off the cobwebs and whatnot. But that was great. But yeah, this is the first outing, and I'm taking the band with me, and we're excited. But yeah, you're right. This isn't 2018-19. It's going to be different, and so
protocols.
Yeah, protocol. What is that? It's going to be different. But it's going to be fun. And we actually had rehearsals a week ago. The guys flew in, and we were just working all the tunes out, because in the studio it's interesting, because I kind of go, because I'm left to my own devices in the studio. I'm like, oh, let's add a lap steel here. Let's do this. I want to play this. And so it's that, like I was telling you earlier, it's that opportunity to play all these instruments that I've always wanted to incorporate onto records. The problem is when you go out as a 3-piece, you got to change the arrangement. So essentially the songs kind of have more of a rock flair. It's like we take the songs from Year of the Tiger, which is the first solo record, and then we take songs from the Ides of March, and we kind of rock them out a little bit more, because you just, as a 3-piece, it's all about just plug it into the amp, turn it up, and just let it go. And also do a handful of songs from some of the other entities I'm a part of. I do that. I'll do that like with the Resonator or acoustic bass. I generally don't like to go down that road as a band, because I would prefer to be using the band that those songs are recorded with or written with.
You're mostly on instrument the entire time you're on stage before? So that's a little bit of a departure right there, a little bit, because sometimes whether it be Slash or whoever or Alter Bridge, your sans guitar or whatever.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I started as a guitar player.
Sure,
Technically, I started as a trumpet player. So the idea that life has turned out the way it has, and I'm known as being the singer guy or the funk guy, is kind of funny to me. So yeah, this is like, I'm very comfortable in this role because it's where I started as a guitarist. So yeah, it's fun.
And a 3-piece this time around.
A 3-piece, just the 3 of us, 3 idiots.
Yeah, that's awesome. Looking forward to it. So now, the other day, Guns N' Roses blew through here, middle of August, and my morning show guy Carl and I were having a discussion, and I said, you know what, I'm going to ask Myles this. Perfect guy to ask. So they played in front of 60,000 people, MetLife Stadium, right? Later this month, they're playing someplace in Atlantic City, a smaller venue. And I'm thinking, like, that's got to be like such a mind F, like to me, the non-musician, but someone like yourself, who you've played stadiums, arenas, played smaller venues. Do you have to get in a different mind space or head space? Because I've always often wondered about that.
Yeah. It's interesting. For me personally, they're very different animals. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I heard an artist talk about this a long time ago, and then once I finally had the opportunity to play a big enough venue to experience what he was describing, which is it's so much easier to connect in a smaller venue with the guy in the back row, right? Because you can see it, you can connect. When you're playing the Enormo Dome, you're like, I have no idea if the guy in the back is waving his hands or if he's flipping me off. It's like it's one of those things. So I love both, but there's something a little more. It's a more controlled environment in a smaller venue where it's easier to kind of wrap everybody up in your realm and connect with everybody. What was that movie? almost famous.
Yeah,
And the guy who's playing the singer, I think it was Joe. What was his name? I forgot. Anyways, not important. But he said something which really stuck with me as a front man. My job as a front guy, my job is to something to the effect of connect with the audience and connect with everybody. Right. So when you're playing a theater versus the Enormo Dome, it's easier to make that connection.
And as a singer, is it more of a projection when you're, or is it like technology take care of that?
Thank goodness for technology. Yeah, right. Imagine, before they invented the PA system, I don't know how they did it, how singers were able to,
the caveman rock stars were throwing out their voice a lot. I know. So speaking of shows, later this summer, or later this winter, I guess you're heading to Europe. Obviously COVID not preventing anything. We hope not. What's your favorite place to play outside of the States or outside of North America? Just curious about that.
Oh man,
from your experiences.
It's a good question. I mean, there's some. It's tough because I don't want to tick anybody off. But
aren't Japanese audiences just like crazy for American rock still?
They're amazing. Who's really? You know what? If you ask a lot of artists who have the opportunity to tour down there, certain parts of South America, most of South America for that matter, it blows your mind. Like Argentina. I don't even know how to describe Brazil. Like there's just this energy that's pretty mind blowing. And so that would be one of them. I do love the UK because the UK is kind of ground zero for so many of the bands I've been a part of. They've accepted us from the beginning, and we've been able to evolve, kind of grow to a certain point there, which kind of spoils us, getting to play the O2, which is like, it's like a 17,000 seat venue, and so it's like. It's a different world. We step onto the shores there, and it's a kind of a different round. It's like that, I don't know, pinch me. But it's all like we were talking about. I do love playing, and I know that sounds like a cliche, but it is different, and it is easier and more controlled playing in like a theater or a smaller venue. So I like that as well.
Myles, before I let you go, you were mentioning about Mark having an album coming out. You got any plans doing? Are you on that album or anything going on?
No, I'm not on that album. But we are trying to figure out when we'll get in at some point next year and make another Alter Bridge album. And everybody's just.
What about our friend Slash? Any talks about any future work there?
Well, we've got some exciting stuff coming soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a record coming out on Gibson Records, hopefully sooner than later. So that's exciting.
Now, did the pandemic throw a lot of that stuff back also, obviously?
Yeah, it messed with everything. It's just trying to navigate all of it is a challenge. I feel really bad for the agents and managers, because those poor guys, they'll set up all this stuff. They'll set up tours and making records, and then next thing you know, they're on the phone with someone saying, nope, you can't do that because the world's, changing again. And so like my manager, Tim, I feel really bad. That poor kid, he would have so many tours booked. Oh wait, we're doing this next, this was like last year. And I'm like on the phone, I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. And then sure enough, things would change, but fingers crossed that things are going to get back to normal.
Back out there. And we can't wait to see you again.
Awesome. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. It's been great talking.
Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.